Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Columbus, Georgia. Normally you'd be watching a video of our service on Sunday. We don't have a video this week, but we do have the talk, which is by Dr. Joyce Hickson, and it's a very important one for this month of May. This month of May, it's all about peace at UU Columbus. So this week, Dr. Hickson is going to talk about Let Peace Begin With Me. Then next Sunday, Joni Andrus, a member and our resident Buddhist nun, will talk about the dialogue of peace. And the following Sunday, the 15th of May, a new friend, Reverend Chandrika D. Fee, will talk about For Peace Sake. The following Sunday, the 22nd of May, our lay leader, Rick Spradlin, will talk about the Dream of Peace. And finally, on May 29th, we'll have the peace ceremony. And now I'm going to turn it over to service leader Connie Ussery, who will introduce Joyce Hickson.
It is my honor to introduce Dr. Joyce Hickson. She has published 4 books and 55 articles in academic journals. She has a doctorate in counseling and established the graduate program, 2 graduate programs actually, in the largest university in South Africa in the counseling field. She also established the first graduate program in counseling for Columbus State University, where she served as the chair for that department for 16 years. She retired as Assistant Vice President for Academic Affairs at Columbus State University. Her presentation today is Let There Be Peace on Earth, and Let It Begin With Me. Welcome, Dr. Hickson.
Good morning. Let there be peace, and let it begin with me. One of the most challenging aspects of being a human being is how you cope with the impermanence of human relationships and how you deal with the unpredictability of human behavior upon which those relationships rest. According to the journal Psychology Today, most problems that we face are people problems. Our relationships with our partners, our children, grandchildren, and other family members are often riddled with conflict. Our relationships with our friends, our neighbors, bosses, co-workers are challenging as well. Human behavior is by far the single largest cause of the difficulties that each of us experience in life. Specifically, what are examples of the kinds of problems we're talking about? Divorce. The United States has the 3rd highest divorce rate in the world. Statistics vary, but according to the U.S. Census Bureau, the rate varies between 40 and 50%. Gray divorce rates, in other words, for those age 50 and over, have risen dramatically in the last 30 years. Family estrangement is another issue. The physical and/or emotional distance of one or more family members, either by choice or by the decision of the other, is another problem. According to researchers, approximately 1/4 of all American families have experienced this at one time or another. Bullying is another example of relationship problems in our society. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, in 2019, 22% of school children reported being bullied at school. They were called names, were the subject of rumors, were pushed, shoved, tripped, as well as threatened. 37% of school children have been the victim of bullying on social media. Domestic violence is another example of relationships gone wrong. 1 in 4 women have been or will be on the receiving end of domestic violence in their lifetime. Elder abuse serves as another example. 1 in 10 adults over age 65 will suffer such abuse. Physical injuries, financial exploitation, and/or sexual battery. Albert Schweitzer said, "How we treat the most vulnerable, our children, our elderly, even our animals, is a real comment on our society." Broken friendships represent another issue. A recent Pew study found that 40% of registered voters said that they would not be friends with someone backing a different presidential candidate in the 2016 election. Friendships have ended because of political differences, comments on social media, and the like. Accordingly, there have been many broken relationships and broken individuals. Brokenness also extends to the cancers in our society, to racism, sexism, ageism, homophobia, and the like. So, how do we evolve as individuals to embrace a higher plane? How do we move forward to a more peaceful existence? Let us remember that for some individuals, when the dark gets darker, their light shines brighter. These individuals have been powerful role models who pointed the way, who worked to manifest peace, and who served as peacemakers who were a positive spirit in our world. Rather than curse the darkness, these individuals chose to be light bearers who served as healing forces in our world. Let's listen to some of their stories. Nelson Mandela was released from prison February 11th, 1990, after serving 27 years. I was there, having lived in South Africa for 7 years. Mandela could have ordered a bloodbath for white South Africans who represented the system of apartheid. He did not. Instead, he promoted a message of forgiveness and the need to unite the country. Upon his release, he said in an interview, "2 things I will always remember." Firstly, he said, "As I walk out of my cell through the door to my freedom, I know I have to leave behind my bitterness and hate, or I will be imprisoned for life." He also said, "You will achieve more in this world by acts of mercy than you will by acts of retribution." There's another story of forgiveness that comes to us again from South Africa. Amy Beale was a blue-eyed blonde, a graduate of Stanford, who went to South Africa on a Fulbright scholarship because she wanted to be a part of the anti-apartheid movement. And so she worked in the black townships to register voters. One day, she became the target of 4 angry youths who had just left a rally where the Pan-African Congress militants were calling for the death of all white people. She was stabbed to death. Her American parents, despite their grief, made it their mission to learn about the horrible effects of apartheid and the toll that this had taken on the psyche of South Africans, particularly black South Africans. They raised and contributed millions of dollars through their foundation to help those in the black townships. And most startling of all, they developed a loving relationship with the very youth who had murdered their daughter. Amy's parents worked with them to help them transform their lives. All 4 of these youth went to prison, and Amy's parents asked the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to grant them amnesty, and their wish was granted. After their release from prison, the 4 youth came to the parents and asked for forgiveness, and their wish was granted. Viktor Frankl said that there is meaning to be found in suffering, and the Beals found the meaning. They both said that if they hadn't freed themselves from hatred, that it would have destroyed them. Our last model is Corrie ten Boom, the author, who said that forgiveness is the key that unlocks the door of resentment and the handcuffs of hatred. I want you to listen carefully to this powerful story, and you may think that there's no way that this could have happened, but it did, and there were witnesses. Corrie ten Boom survived the horrors of a concentration camp where her entire family was killed. She did her best to forgive the perpetrators and often spoke on the topic of forgiveness to churches and synagogues. One night, after she had finished her talk at a church, a man in a gray overcoat stepped forward to greet her, and she froze. She recognized him as one of the most vicious guards at her camp, and the experience came flooding back with a rush. And now this man was putting out his hand to shake hers, and he said, "Please forgive me." Here she was, face to face with one of her captors, remembering the leather crop swinging from his belt. And again he said, "Will you forgive me?" And her blood seemed to freeze. And then she remembered that forgiveness is an act of the will. She prayed silently to be given the strength to extend her hand. She thrust her hand out, and an incredible thing took place. As she describes it, a current started at her shoulder, raced down her arm, and sprang into her hand. She said, I was flooded with love, and a healing warmth flooded my entire being. I forgive you, my brother, with all my heart. Let us remember the words of Gandhi. The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. And so, let there be peace, and let it begin with me. Thank you.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With earth as our mother, family all are we. We could live with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let it begin